You know it, you move to a new neighborhood at one point of time, and in that new neighborhood, the neighbors come around, they bring you a cake, you have one drink, and then for years, the neighbors don't talk with each other, and then suddenly you see there's a party happening. And I think this is a little bit around what's happening with the telcos in the IoT world. Before McKinsey, I advised telco companies, and 10 years ago, they were very excited about IoT. They might have been roaming around here, and then for 6, 7, 8 years, they were selling off IoT, they were only focused on connectivity. But what we now see is they're throwing a party again. And why I'm talking here with you today, I think the party might actually be quite interesting for the IoT industry, because there will be new money flowing in, new opportunities. And what I think this ecosystem achieved is exactly what the telcos need to make their new push very successful. But let me start with a story. Who of you lost 10 million in a couple of weeks? I got 10 million from McKinsey to write a report on 5G, and I got a big launch of the report, marketing agency, everything, and then 3 days before COVID hit. So the report never got read, it's somewhere in the shelf, so you can still download it, but we lost all the money. The good news is I lost 10 million, but the telcos lost about 1 trillion. They invested 1 trillion in the hope that 5G would give them a lot of IoT revenue, actually, really, more better connectivity, low latency connectivity, mission critical connectivity. And as we all know, that didn't really materialize. It never materialized as they hoped. And so therefore, I lost 10 million, they lost 1 trillion. And that's been quite painful. And if you take a random large telco stock in Europe, don't take KPN because they're up, but take any other, Vodafone, you see that the last 10 years have been quite terrible for them. They haven't created a lot of value, because putting so much money in the network and not really making a return is actually pretty complicated. So the last couple of years, the telcos have been mulling, and the best said, plan A didn't really pan out. We've never been able to generate the returns we wanted, so we need a new plan. And I think 2 years ago, they finally came up with a new plan. And what they're now trying to do is really making the capabilities of the network much more seamlessly available to you, basically. People in the ecosystem will build hardware, which build software. They're starting out with a lot of identity, so anti-fraud. I'm clearly pissed off the gentleman with my slide because he's leaving me. But you see a lot of anti-fraud happening. They're trying to raise the OTP, but soon location will come. So you will have a different way than GPS and Wi-Fi to location based on the mobile network. They will come with things like population density. We're doing now demos with drone flying, where you basically say, hey, where in the route will you have least people below your drone? So those kind of things will become available in the next 1 or 2 years, all the way to gonna get a great high quality connectivity, gonna get low bandwidth connectivity, low latency connectivity, and even payments or things like where's the closest by edge node. They're doing that in 2 initiatives to make it confusing, because telcos like to make things confusing. They do something with Camara. Camara is a Linux Foundation initiative, which is set up by the GSMA. And they're basically make sure that the APIs are set to a way developers can use them. Because the good thing is the industry realized we don't know how to work with developers, so they asked the Linux Foundation to run that. And then the GSMA is running an initiative called Open Gateway, and Open Gateway is all around focusing on making sure that telcos expose this. Because the reality is that old people, I'm quite old already, have seen this before. Like 10 years ago, we had with Mobile Connect, they promised the same, but they never made it easy. So they're trying to learn from their mistakes. They set up an open source repository where you can go to, you can pitch, and you can develop, and then basically the GSMA is pushing a real hard push to make them available. This is the overview of the APIs. There are about 450 APIs available, but of course there are 3 operators in every market and 200 markets. So in reality, the authentication is there. But for example, geofencing is currently piloted, location retrieval is being piloted, but also in Spain you can already buy a high quality connectivity to basically say, I want to have a guaranteed connectivity of X, and you can actually establish that with an API. So there will be a very rich set of these APIs available. And again, GSMA is pounding very hard to make it happen by end of this year, early next year, that the majority of these APIs are available. For those of you who are based in China or in Japan or Southeast Asia, much more of these APIs are already available. In Malaysia, Indonesia, you can already buy a lot of the stack off the shelf, which again is very exciting. Now, and again, I'm McKinsey, I need to show a complicated slide, otherwise you don't believe I'm from a consulting firm. But the point of this slide is, as you have learned the hard way, is connectivity is only one of the 500 things you need to solve to make things happen. And for example, in autonomous driving, connectivity is one part. And that's the reason why I'm very excited on the collaboration of this industry, where you innovating hardware, you're innovating software models, business models, sensors. Because again, the telcos are very excited, and I was on stage with them last week. They said, oh, we got this amazing API now, but I think you learned the last 15 years that having connectivity is only a little element of the whole stack. You need to have this stack here. We as McKinsey actually believe that the APIs alone could generate about 8 to 10 billion or 14 billion of revenue. But we actually really believe there will be edge compute revenue, there will be sensor revenue, there'll be hardware revenue. So we think this ecosystem can be multiples of this ecosystem, because there's actually quite a lot of money with these telco available to scale it. We also had a bigger prediction of 300 billion, but again, as the telcos do, they're very slow to adopt. They promised to have this live by end of 2023. It's now 2025, we're not there yet, so we think it's more about $100 billion. Still, that means for people in the room here, again, this is a pocket where big telcos, big companies are investing behind, and they need the expertise and the capability you've shown to scale an ecosystem. Because again, connectivity and APIs is only one element of the chain. Now, again, like I said, 24, 25 is all around subscriber and location. Quality will come a little bit later. And again, segment-wise, we actually believe media and entertainment will be really big, energy, utilities will be quite big, but also industry and manufacturing, there will be quite a big opportunity to leverage this API. So depending a bit on where you sit in the ecosystem, there is quite a lot of money to be made. And a lot of that will also be 5G connectivity for operators. Now, for those who know a little bit about operators, 5G connectivity has about 40 to 50% margin. So if you basically create $10 billion of revenue, that means there is about 5 billion of margin. So again, there is a lot of money to make this ecosystem come to life. For old people, and I saw one person, I won't point them in because he also has gray hair, he was nodding, is we tried this before. Mobile Connect, there were all kind of other initiatives. So why do we as McKinsey, or why do in the ecosystem think that this time the world will be different? Why do we think this is a real opportunity? And that's basically because the first time, they said we're going to do this with the Linux Foundation for Developer. That's already a big thing. The second is there are like 15 of the biggest telcos in the world came together to set up an initiative together with Ericsson to make them available. Why is that interesting? At least they show that they want to be global, that you don't have to deal with individual telcos to make things happen. Because again, the gentleman before was describing clearly how painful it is to connect to 15 or 20 or 30 different networks. So they're trying to make it easy. If I'm honest, is it already easy? No, but at least they have the real reason to make things easy. And again, Aduna, as the JV is called, Google is now on board, Microsoft is on board, TikTok is using it, Zoom is using it. So this is not a theory, this is an actual company that's live, it's independent, it's funded, and its sole aim is to really make sure that the developer ecosystem, the hardware ecosystem can actually start using this to make things happen. So, recapping, why am I here? Why am I here today? I honestly believe there will be an influx of investments in the coming years to revisit. They will have different names for it, but in the end, the network APIs are a way to create IoT, and because it's not going to come from a little bit of fraud and identity, which is maybe 20%, but the rest will come from industrial applications. In the last 10 years, your neighbors where I was haven't really looked at what happened in the industry, what type of innovation you did, how you make things happen, what are the sensors, what are the type of system integration, what are the type of hardware, and they really start needing this type of capability, because this is the type of capability to basically will create $100 billion. So why do I think these network API are interesting is, at the lowest level, it just creates another level of connectivity in a much easier, much more accessible fashion. Secondly, there might be some APIs, it might be location, it might be some of the edge compute capabilities, it might be some of the abilities to really shape the connectivity you need for your application, you can buy from them. But if you take a little bit further is, there might be a real partnership opportunity because suddenly, again, an Etisalat, a Verizon, an AT&T invested in this unit, and they really want to now grow they want to have a different bite at the apple on IoT. And players like yourself who actually learned how hard it is to scale the ecosystem, how hard it is to move from just a connectivity technology like LoRa to the whole thing you need from sensor, device, contract, connectivity, system integration, value generation, we get there. So why we think this is interesting, it will create real investment opportunities, real partnership opportunities for the industry, and you really need it. So that's what I want to say from the neighbors. So welcome you to our house again. Come by, come have coffee, come have cake, because I think the capability you bring is amazing, and if we're good neighbors, we can build a great ecosystem together. Thank you.